There we go.
I am. What's up, Bobby?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Everything you need to know about the Pfizer
You know what, Matt?
COVID vaccine.
I just want to tell you how
I've been reading about it. 42,000 people in a trial.
No. Hold on. Let's bring it up. There's the tweet. 170,000 New Yorkers, Matt, expect it all. If all safety and efficacy approvals are granted to receive those doses on December 15th, Pfizer is not the one that needs to be kept at minus 70 degrees Celsius. No, I think that's the Moderna one. Which one is it? Do we know?
I don't know. I can't keep up with it. I mean, again, I just, there's so many vaccines out there. There's 27,000 of them being produced, and 99.9999% of us are alive still today.
I thought it interesting that
but the market is clearly pricing in the greatest news ever, which is we're all going to recover, which we're all living fine pretty much today. But we're all going to be fine. And vaccine, take it. Vaccine, you don't. You're all going to be fine.
Well, for sure. I mean, I think what the market is telling us, and what I think markets do particularly poorly when they price in perfection. So we have the vaccines coming down. They'll be here soon. I'm fully for vaccines, especially for the people that are in the most risk categories, right? And, we were talking before. I mean, I was pretty averse to vaccine taking until I've talked to more than a few medical professionals on this kind of arc that, like, they're better at heart transplants. They're better at,
total hips, total knees.
Total hips, total knees. What would make you think that they're not better at vaccine development too? So that kind of gave me pause that, if I was an at-risk person, that I would consider taking it without much worry. I think back to our original point though, Matt, is the market is pricing in perfection here. Perfect delivery, perfect outcome, a perfect recovery. And I mean, there's shrapnel everywhere. I mean, the damage that has been done, I just don't see a perfect recovery. That being said, I'm trying to pick some tops here in the outright indices, and that gets a little bit dicey because it really hasn't rolled over. Like, nobody's questioned this perfect lacing the needle that this market is pricing in.
Yeah, I think it'll, today's a perfect example. This week has been really quiet again. We're literally just kind of hanging around. Volatility's gone, and the only thing that's moving is the dollar. Everybody's leaning on it at the last minute here. Again, I say last minute. As long as 88 holds, nothing's new here. We've been in the same range for 5 years. So tough to get really excited about a new year low on the dollar and that's what's keeping the market afloat, quite frankly. If they need that dollar to get crushed for it to continue to go up, and that's all it. We've talked about this. It's a currency play right now, and if most people don't know this, they don't know that the only reason the market's hanging up here is because the dollar is getting schmeezed, and the euro's back to 2 year, approaching 2 year highs at 125, but it's nowhere near the 2006 Jay-Z days when he said, "I only want to be paid in the euro."
Matt, I know you shared that inside the group. Why don't you share your screen about that? Because sometimes a history lesson is worth the price of admission. Yeah. And you shared this inside our private group this morning about the Jay-Z comment. And why don't you share the screen with the euro fractal out and talk about sometimes timing comes from weird places.
Yeah. I mean, I was, again, I've been at this game a long time. Halfway through my career, I remember Jay-Z and Beyonce, right? They were just getting married, and they were at the top of their game also, by the way. And all of a sudden Jay-Z, and it was also, if you'll recall, it was also the end of the Bush reign, and people were so sick of Bush in 2006, 7, and 8, right? They were so tired of the post 9/11 apocalypse, etc. So the euro back here, and this is 07, 08, right into, Obama's, legacy start. It basically peaked, right at the start of Obama's rotation as his 8 years. And that was when Jay-Z was saying, I want to be paid only in euros. Well, Jay-Z, you lost, 35% of your wealth just by saying that. I hope you didn't do it. I'm sure your financial guys were doing okay. But that was back when the dollar was trading again, 71, 72. So this is not new. And the point to bring this up is this is a slow moving train wreck that you're seeing in Europe. And the train wreck usually stays on the rails longer than you expect. And it is. I mean, Europe is going to be the first to fall, I can assure you, in this new world order. Their finances, their banks are way more bankrupt than ours are, and ours are also. But this new digital payments, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's the Brussels coming up with their own new version of a digital currency, they need to wipe out the debt, Bob. If they don't, they're screwed. So. Yeah, the euro is really not again, that's fractaling way out. This is a monthly chart, but is that a bullish chart in your eyes?
No, it sure isn't. It looks like it's pressing the top of the channel, and even if it does take the channel out, it's got that meat of the top of that profile to fight through.
Yeah. I just don't see it getting past 130 again here, unless there's some new progression that we're unaware of today. And then this trend line is just still in place. I mean, nothing's even fresh here. This is a 15-year rollout, which is nothing in markets, but there you go. You want to look at simple trend lines?
I hate trend lines. I hate them. I'm not a trend line guy.
I don't trade off them either, but that's where we are. It's just a little, and the low here is basically about 60 pips, which is huge. So guess what? The next move should take you 60 lower, 60 higher. If you play the trend lines.
Right, exactly. I love it too when you come up with the actual count that the technical analysis is giving you. A lot of times people, they don't want to hear that either. Sometimes, I know when I do the standard deviation work and you look at the opposite momentum level, they don't want to hear about it because it seems like it's too painful.
The other thing that's interesting today, and I'll just mention it real quickly, is the FAANG stocks are all weak all day today. Apple is slightly red. Amazon, strange behavior. I mean, it's down, again, 18, 19 bucks. But just look at the choppiness. It's not very liquid. There's not a lot of participation. Again, and these are your big, FAANG stocks. FAANG, Facebook is slightly red, again, down about a little bit more, 2%. And I know Google was at the low of the day when I looked also. Which is not much, but it's red for the first time. So Google's down 44 cents, no big deal. But I just point this out that, again, the leaders in this market, and I just showed you, all of them, except with the exception of, Netflix, and I haven't looked at what Netflix is doing today. But Netflix is down here, red also. So FAANG, red today. Always important. Like if you want to trade the NASDAQ, you need to understand those five stocks compose 80% of the value of the NASDAQ futures, right? So know what you're trading, know how it works. And that's a really important thing to mention here. Most people don't get that. They don't get that. I mean, basically you could just follow Apple out of those five even, and you can pretty much be assured which way the NASDAQ is going to be that day, green or red, based on what Apple's doing.
Right on. All right, Matt, I wanted to bring this one up. A tweet that you shared analyzing Bitcoin from your friend Martin Armstrong Economics. Analyzing Bitcoin, here you can see that the turning point was November, and then we have a Jan-Feb. Not that we have back-to-back directional changes in November and December. So is he trying to say we had up in November?
No, I mean, he uses, he's got an AI computer. And if you haven't read Martin Armstrong, I suggest you read him. Go to armstrongeconomics.com. He's been out there. I've been receiving his, from mailed newsletters to fax to email, right? The progression. I've been following this man for 30 plus years, including the time he was releasing his letter when he was in jail, but never charged, by the way, 7 years. It's an interesting story. I've interviewed him before. we could talk about it sometime, and maybe we'll have him back on the show because he'd be happy to come on and talk about this stuff, I'm sure. But the point is, yes, turning point meaning directionally, but it could be directionally the same way. And it's complicated the way he uses his arrays, but he's just basically saying we're expecting another big move. And again, it could be higher or
well, I mean, the way I'm reading that is and I correct me if I'm wrong, but we see this a lot of time in markets. So you had this pump in November, right? And then in December, if there's any downward action, all the weak hands are going to flush.
Right.
They're going to flush right into longer term hands.
That's right.
For that next big leg up.
Right.
I'm bringing this up because, well, two things. I want to keep things light, and because everybody in crypto talks about the moonshot, right? Like this is going to be a moonshot.
Right.
And this guy Andrew McCarthy, this is off base totally. This is a young man taking incredible 81 megapixel pictures of the moon. You got to follow him on Twitter because his stuff is amazing shots. But for the moonshot to happen, for me, and Armstrong talked about this, I know in something else that we talked about, that there's a lot of people moving money and running for cover in this environment.
Exactly. It's more of and that's the point really that he tries to make, Bobby, is that, this is not necessarily a accumulation move. It's more of it's a asset protection move, right? And that's a big important thing, and that explains a lot of the liquidity. People are moving money away from the banks that are failing, and wherever they have their wealth stored, and they're using Bitcoin as a way to do that, right? And that's not a long-term bullish scenario under that environment, because that only lasts until those that are kind of done chasing for a while. So it's an instance where you could be seeing this distribution going on by the people that need to sell, and they're happy to sell to you here, and the bag holders are the people that are stuck trying to move big dollars from being taxed or whatever it is where they're living. That's what he's suggesting. That's one of the things that's happening around the world.
Yeah, and it's not showing up in trading volume, so to speak, necessarily. It's not back and forth volume. It's transactional volume. The Bitcoin is getting transferred from one wallet to another, as opposed to just straight out trading volume.
Right. And by the way, in a few moments, we're going to have John back from John Syndicate. We're going to talk some college hoops. So just letting you know that.
Right on.
Be alerted for our viewers. Hang with us a little bit. College basketball has started, and Michigan is not a football school anymore. I've said this for the past few years. We are a basketball school, ranked only 25th, but we were going to make a deep run last year. We lost a lot of players. 3-0 already this year, Bobby.
Man, I just wanted to shrink myself here and have a little fun because this kid is killing it with the moon.
What are you doing on the moon?
Look at it. I'm going to the moon, man. I've said this on plenty of Fridays after the close. I'll see you on the moon.
The man on the moon.
I just wanted to see that I'm actually coming out of the moon now, and I can actually say good night. I'm gonna just disappear.
Good night, moon.
Into the moon. And then actually I can be reborn and come back out of the moon. All you Bitcoin holders that are looking for the moonshot. I just, I like playing around with technology as much as I can when I can. Man, I wanted to bring this up with you because this is something else that you shared, and I don't know the backstory of your friend Drew Henson and Kirky Herbstreit, a Buckeye. Give me the backstory. Let's talk a little sports.
Sure. Well, Drew Henson, if you don't know, is probably one of the most successful pro athletes with guaranteed contracts in both baseball from the Yankees and football with the Cowboys. And he was both a Michigan quarterback and baseball player, third baseman. He never played either sport, but he got guaranteed contracts of about $30 million that he walked away with. That being said, he was a professional athlete. Kirk Herbstreit was a terrible Ohio State Buckeye quarterback. And I preface that only to say that I also liked Kirk Herbstreit generally, but his emotions got the better of him on this radio show the other day. I think it was on, whatever it was. It wasn't Barstool. It was ESPN radio. And he was crying that, Michigan may cancel the game because of COVID and use that as an excuse to hose Ohio State from making it to the college playoff.
Come on, he
said that.
Conspiracy theoried that.
He said it, and that's Drew Henson saying, well, you had the chance to apologize for being ridiculous on TV, but you doubled down and kept pushing on it. He kept saying, Michigan's going to do this. Of course, the Michigan, AD Ward Manuel had to come out and say, give me a break. We want to play. Our kids have been, we want to beat you. We don't want to, default. Even if we get crushed, we want to play you. So, that's unfortunately, Kirk, you were being a little pussy on that one. Sorry about it.
You can say it, Matt. Matt, we don't have any sponsors that are going to defund us. Say whatever you want.
Well, Meow Mix is now off the list, but I'm okay with that.
All right, Matt. Let's go to the chart, and let me show a few things here. Hold on one second.
And I still like Kirk Herbstreit. I want to, but again, you can't do that. You can't, it's like, it'd be like Desmond Howard, right? This is what's so funny about watching Game Day all the time with Desmond Howard and Herbstreit. Michigan and Ohio State on the ends of the table every day. I love it. And it's this, there's always that, that tension that everybody knows about that went to these schools. But the largest living alumni of any university in the world is not going to let him off the hook. And that's the University of Michigan, the largest living alumni base of any world university, the University of Michigan. So sorry, Kirk, you really, misplayed your hand there, and you're too good to get fired. But by all means, apologize to the Ann Arbor faithful.
Is he a flat earther too?
No.
Well, that Ohio State education, one never knows.
It's the Ohio State, Bob. The
Ohio State. All right, listen, I wanted to talk about the cattle market just a little bit here. I know we talked about it with Carly a little bit the other day. Especially in my feed on Twitter, lots of people trading hogs and cattle. And there had been these 2 days in a row where they put in these small candles with higher closes. Lots of people especially on Twitter, they want to see higher cattle prices, right? Their life depends on higher cattle prices. And for me, this is just a terrible candle and day here for the cattle. Now, we're going to talk at some point about the Hillary Clinton cattle trading academy that she could for sure run, because she's the best cattle trader that has ever walked the face of the earth. And
one and done,
what aggravates me so much about it is because I am a baby, and it really hurts my feelings that I've lost so much money trading cattle over my life. And she was so successful in a 1 year sprint at it, taking $1,000 and turning it into 100,000. Hence,
how did she do it? How did she do it?
How did she do it? Highs and lows all the time. Incredible. But this is terrible action, as far as I'm concerned, in the cattle. On the daily Dees here, that lower momentum level is 109.25. They close below there. That's not healthy, especially since, as opposed to the nuance of this close on November 19, where you still had upward sloping standard deviation lines, like the slope was still up. Now these lines have fully rounded. That's part of the nuance that I pay attention to in standard deviation trading. It's like it's closing in lower momentum, and also that's been the general trend if you look at it over the past several days. Matt, we talk a lot about baseball in our I do anyway, and I know you're a baseball fan.
Yep.
The standard deviation trading is a lot like, that 300 hitter that bats 600 and then he bats 100, and you want to play those swings between those two extremes. And for me,
I got a question for you.
I like seeing people make money, and so when cattle takes a crap, it's not great for the cattle, producers, the cattle processors, and all that type of stuff. But you gotta pay attention to the chart. That's all I'm saying, is that 0925 level, you really want to see it hold and not close down there in lower momentum.
Bob, I got a question for you. We've talked about spreads before. Do the meats, and especially cattle and this, beef side of things, spreads more popular than straight out up and down? How do they trade? Tell us.
Yeah, you know what? I will tell you for sure that, especially from, first of all, the margin required is considerably lower for a spread versus an outright. All right. And if you just look at spreads in general, calendar spreads, the volatility in general, and especially when it was just pit traded, was much more muted, a la smaller margins. And I got to tell you, man, I was on the floor for 25 plus years. I traded pretty much everywhere on that floor, but I traded with very few people that had private jets. And there are guys in the ag quadrant, traders, and talk about guys that take risk, put monster positions on with seemingly no liquidity. I mean, you talk about liquidity all the time, and you got guys with position limits on and hogs and cattle and in those spreads in particular. And at any time, the market's like, 2 ticks wide, but it's 10 by 20. And these guys got thousands on. So,
and these are really short-houred markets, by the way. What do they trade with 3 or 4 hours?
Well, we always talked about on the trading floor, you want to retire to the meets because in the old days it was 9:05 to 1. Now it is 8:30 until 1 again. So they got you up a little bit early.
You're working earlier. An extra.
But yeah, for sure. And there were when Globex was first humping and pumping, these ag markets, the meat markets in particular, were open overnight to the dismay of everyone because the algos, who's up trading hogs in the middle of the night in Asia, the right. U.S. hog market.
Right.
There was just super thin. They ran markets back and forth. Again, let's just circle back to my natural ability for sarcasm and to doubt honesty in players and in systems. And so, electronic trading, man, we are still in that position camp that electronic markets can be fucked with. Let's call it what it is. Yeah. Like if you have a Trojan that can read the orders as they come in, you can build the book and you can then have predatory algo trading going on. And don't tell me that's not a possibility, that the system's foolproof. Of course it's not.
Let me take a quick stab at the cattle chart. Just again, I'm not trading it. I'll just give you my opinion. We have just been banging 4 or 5 times now on this 111 area, and this thing is like a lid. I got to tell you, I would not want to be long this right now until it got over 114, and even then, I'd be looking for breakout and give me a pullback to buy. So this thing, again, spread wise, I've got to imagine you've got to set up some bearish spreads. Just like the rest of the market, right? It bottomed back in the spring COVID, 1.0, and just came back to that line and just has been hugging, but it never really fully recovered, which is interesting.
And how could it fully recover with restaurants closed pretty much?
Right. That's a good point.
I've
got to imagine, the expense account is big when it comes to cattle futures, and the lack of business meetings, dinners, lunches. It doesn't exist. It hasn't existed this entire year. And there's no way, you and I aren't going to, cook a steak for the guys that, for the meow mix, that we're trying to get to promote, market vitals, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and again, back to our conversation earlier, talking about threading the needle and how these other markets are predicting just a perfect outcome from this disaster of a year. I don't know, man.
We haven't talked this week about the takeover, the buyout in Salesforce buying Slack. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Say that one more time.
The mergers and acquisition side of the business, Salesforce bought Slack this week for about just shy of 28 billion. And we haven't talked about that. Let me throw up a chart real quick.
Yeah,
because I
throw
think
up the chart.
This is important because it's technology and two behemoths now. Salesforce is known to buy other software companies that they highly integrate with and work with, and Slack's been that for them for a number of years. They went public only a couple years ago. Slack is Work, WORK, and I'll bring that one up also, and then I'll come back to CRM. But Work it's so interesting. I always find this so interesting. Work went through the roof well before the deal was announced. The deal was announced this day when it hit 45.63. Somebody knew it. Somebody knew a week ahead of time. The cat was out of the bag. Boom, here, and then it's announced here. It's boggling to me, but that stock has had a huge run also. Anyways, it's been bought out. I just find it interesting, but CRM since that acquisition has just been throttled. It's absolutely been throttled. Here it was 266. But this is the one I wanted to show. This had the run up. So this was what was interesting. Salesforce had the run up before the announcement. This was well before. This was in early November. That's a big move for this stock because this is a huge market cap stock. It's 203 billion market cap. This is not a small company. This is not a new company. And, their CEO is also, who is it? Mark Benioff. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
He's big. He's a big player over in the Davos or the World Economic, Forum people that are going on. He's one of these guys that, his software is eating the world, obviously. And his company is one of the biggest, baddest out there. They've basically replaced, if you remember all the old, big 8 accounting firms, it's now these software firms like Salesforce that are doing all the consulting and coming in and charging these companies huge amounts of money, promising efficiencies, etc. And listen, I love Slack. I think it's a great product, but this is interesting that it is sold off, 20% since they announced the takeover.
It reminds, I had a conversation today with a good friend that's a TV producer, and we've talked over the years about the music industry, Matt, and how the digital music is a poor replica of an album. The high fidelity in general from most digital music is not near what the high fidelity was from an album. And there's a resurgence going on in the album world. Vinyl is incredibly popular. And he recommended a book to me called The Revenge of Analog, like everything analog coming back. Because
does that include the horse and buggy though?
Well, maybe not the horse and buggy, Matt. Maybe not the horse and buggy, but so many things analog. An album, and for particular vinyl, it was a piece of physical space with an album cover, with art, with the lyrics. You interacted with the music to put it on and to take it off.
I guess, yeah, go ahead with that.
And it's just everything everything digitized doesn't necessarily make us a better world. Just like the social dilemma points out, that information at your fingertips isn't necessarily the best thing. Being able to silo people. I don't know. It's a strange new world out there, but I think people are understanding that maybe an Amish 2.0 isn't a bad idea either. What is the technology serving? And right now in our environment, it for sure is serving up a lot of strife and divisiveness more than anything.
So point counterpoint. I've been a user of Spotify now for 12 years. Used it initially. It was not even allowed in the United States. You had to go through a VPN way back in the mid 2000s to use it, but it was by far the best, and it's still, in my opinion, is the best music digital platform. So the counterpoint to your argument is, I don't think so. LL Cool J.
Is that Spotify? Is it a public company?
This is Spotify, SPOT.
Right.
All-time highs again today, 332 was that. It's trading currently up percent at $324 a share. This is an 89-minute chart, so going back about 6 months. What a run, Bobby! You should own this stock. I've said it. I've told everybody one stock to own for me: Spotify. Buy what you know. Buy what you know. I love the platform. I love the music. Maybe the next day or two we'll see what my most played songs are versus my kids. We have a family account. I like this about Spotify. You can have 8 different logins, but one payer. Dad pays, everybody else gets to benefit. But I don't have to listen
to repeat.
But I don't have to listen to their playlists. Hence they log in on their own and their own statistics are kept. So I don't get pushed really bad little yachty, little monkey, little. Everybody's little.
Lil, by the way,
Lil.
It's not little, it's Lil.
I know. But
Get it right.
Saying, I don't need to listen. The point
You're
is,
so
Spotify. Look at that, Spotify, almost a 3-bagger just since the spring, also. So, music is still selling. It is probably getting most people. And the thing that's great about it now, Bob, is they're you want to talk a story stock. They're crushing everybody when it comes to the podcast. They've got Rogan on now. They've got Bill Simmons, from The Ringer. They're all on there. All the big podcasts want to be on Spotify because that's where the audience is. It's not Apple Music. It's not, even though they tried to close that system out and make it, only Apple people can use Apple iTunes. Well, guess what? Spotify's better anyways. I remove Apple Music from my devices because I prefer Spotify.
Right on. Let's find John.
So let me talk. Let me talk. I've got a note out to him. I think he's on the phone. Of course, figuring out.
He's a busy guy.
What line moves are happening right now? That's his
in
world.
The brackets.
Another thing about I wanted to talk a little bit, because Warren brought this up. Another way to talk about like the CRM, the Salesforce move, to think about it is the shareholders in Salesforce. Do they feel richer, do you think, or poorer after this acquisition? Like, was that a good move? They've lost 20% of their value by making this purchase of a $27 billion company. Slack has 15 million daily users, according to, and Microsoft's Teams, right, which is a big deal because everybody has Windows on their computers still at the office. So Microsoft has a competing product, which was also in talks supposedly to buy Slack. Microsoft Teams has 115 million daily users as of October of 2020, and Slack only has 15. So, again, the question is, was that really a good acquisition for the shareholders? And this is a fundamental question, which we don't talk about often, but it's one that I'd love to hear your 2 cents on.
Well, man, I don't know fundamentals. I know fundamentally this. You brought up the chart, and I believe the chart. The chart's telling me everything.
I love your answer.
Well, seriously, it's like I'm reminded of this. Was it Gordon Gekko or was it? It wasn't Gordon Gekko. Who am I thinking of? Richard Gere when he's in the elevator and the guy's like, you had to sell, and he's like, yeah, well, are your guys going to be happy when they found out they paid 4 times more than it was worth? It looks like that to me on the chart. Well, maybe this is a long-term play for Salesforce. Maybe they need to pivot.
Here's another chart that I'll just throw up to talk because it's the same sector, and that's SAP, right? It's another large software player on the corporate side, enterprise level. These guys have been, and it's a German company, but they compete in a lot of space that CRM, that Salesforce plays in, and they got crushed on an earnings play here. They were trading as high as 169 back in September. This is why this is interesting to me, because it's an interesting topic, because it could portend quite interestingly for the future for a lot of these software companies, right? Salesforce sells off after this acquisition. This company, SAP, sold off hard on a bad earnings miss, all the way down to 100, just about 104 from 169. So that, and these aren't small numbers. Again, a market cap on on Salesforce, or excuse me, on SAP today is 144 billion. So they basically, lost about $60 billion on this drop. And, that makes the acquisitions in the future much more difficult when you lose that much in your stock, because then you can't go out and acquire further. And then the business model is really not so much about getting new business as it is acquiring your business at this level, right? Because they just can't, there's not enough billion-dollar customers out there. When you're in the B's, you got, you can only sell so much Slack. You can only sell so much, Salesforce to the little guy. And this company,
the other thing, Matt, that it points out to me is the flaw in the long-term perfect execution model coming out of this. Small companies are closing left and right. I mean, I got a McDonald's.
I'm going to continue with this
here. Three of the local little coffee, shops are closed that I would have went to.
And this leads me to a trade idea, if you will, for our viewers today, and that is FSLY. It's another high-flying software company that just came public within the last year, I believe. Let me get you an exact date. But again,
acronym again.
FSLY, FSLY, and they came public in June of 19. So a little over a year and a half. But look at this spike. Pre-COVID, this thing, nobody even knew about it.
Wow.
Nobody knew about it. Went from 30 down to 10, from 10, Bob, to 136. 136 this summer. This was the peak right here. And this thing also on a bad earnings got slaughtered right back to the moving average. Look at that. Held it, but now is coming back and testing the meat, if you will, of the lifetime of this stock. This is really the most traded price, right where we are today, $84. Place your bets.
Sold.
There you go. Place your bets, buy or sell, because this is where we are. This thing,
what do they supposedly do better than anybody?
I don't know. It's a information tech company. Again, I think they do some HR software, probably onboarding, things like that. I can't even tell you exactly. I'd have to. Right on. I didn't do my homework well enough for that one, because fundamentally,
that's all right, Matt. We don't need to know the story when we have the chart.
Fundamentally, Bob, I don't care. But the point is, you see this trend. These are three, and again, market cap here is $9.5 billion with a B again. Billion. These aren't small, chumpy companies yet. The growth is here, but is it going to be CRM? Is it going to be SAP? I don't think so. And again, you're seeing this kind of across the board. And I would be wary of chasing names like this for too long. And then the other thing, Microsoft was considering buying Slack in 2016, and I think Slack rejected it, and the offer at that point was only $8 billion. So the winner in this whole thing, by the way, Bob, is Slack.
And the Slack.
Whoever started that company, they're taking the cash.
Yeah. God bless them. God bless them. I love seeing it.
That is what makes America great. Whoever started that company took the risk, developed the product, and they're living fat and happy right now. Good for them. Fantastic.
All right, Matt, we're gonna have to catch up with John another day. Yeah.
Yep, gonna have to catch up with him.
All right, listen, man, we have a free giveaway. No, we don't. The free giveaway, actually, please join marketvitals.io and get that daily commodity sheet every day. Interact with a community of traders looking to better themselves, have honest interaction around profit and loss, risk reward, trade ideas. Let's go to the moon, Matt. I don't mind going to the moon.
Hey, neither did Neil Armstrong.
Right on, baby. Well, what did Neil Armstrong say just before he stepped onto the moon?
One great step for...
No. It was about his neighbor. Oh. You never heard that story?
I have. Tell me it again. Tell me again.
The neighbor's husband telling the wife that she could have her way when a man walks on the moon. All right. Pay up. All right. I'm walking. All right, pal. Have a great day.
All right. See you, Bobby.
Yep.